Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on YouTube at Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook and X at 3FM927. You can join in the conversation. All you need to do is just go on Facebook and look out for 3FM927. You can share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions on the issues we're going to be talking about here on Hot Edition on 3FM92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Coming up this evening, Electricity Company of Ghana attributes 1.9 billion cedis loss recorded in 2021 on cedi depreciation. Details from the Public Accounts Committee hearing here on Hot Edition. The latest report also reveals fertility amongst women in Ghana has declined by almost 40%. What's accounting for this development? We have answers for you shortly. This is coming from the Ghana Statistical Service, talking about fertility amongst women in Ghana. Also, Yasin Central Member of Parliament Kennedy Ejapong and English Manfro MP Sylvester Tete reconcile their differences after near fisticuffs in Parliament earlier today. Also, a former minority leader urges government to resolve the Tamale water crisis. We have details of this, plus the latest in sports, entertainment, and business coming up over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. As always, share your thoughts with us and we'll read it out to you and to the rest of the world. Welcome aboard. This is Hot Edition. Let's get into the details now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. The Electricity Company of Ghana has justified a 1.9 billion cedis loss recorded in 2021, attributing the situation on this depreciation of the cedi against major trading currencies. Managing Director of ECG, Samuel Dubik Mahama, who appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, indicated that the company is working on reducing losses through efficient revenue collection. Let's take a listen to Samuel Dubik Mahama. We'll get to connect with him shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 and also the matters relating to that here on Hot Edition, and then also the reactions as well that have come through, especially after some revelations at the Public Accounts Committee earlier today. Also talking about the Public Accounts Committee, the National Lottery Authority was also before the Public Accounts Committee. Samia Oko, who heads that particular National Lottery Authority, have questions to answer about some procurement breaches that led to some of the Public Accounts Committee members raising questions about why the single source or sole sourcing option was chosen at a time when there was no need for that. Take a listen.
Very well. Now, what is delaying in you deploying the rest for your services? Because if you are saying that within 5 years or for having been about 5 years, the apps are becoming odious and obsolete. Clearly, if we are not able to replace them or upgrade them, then the machines may not be put to use at all. So I want to urge you to deploy them quickly so that they can bring in some revenue for the state, so to speak. Chairman, I'll end it here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We will do that. We will take the Honourable Member of Parliament's advice. Thank you very much.
Honourable Yusuf.
Chairman, thank you. Chairman, I've listened to the conversation. In my opinion, I think this is very scandalous. It is scandalous to the extent that you spend 20.4 million of the taxpayers' money through sole sourcing. And the justification is that because there was some kind of agency. Now you receive these machines only for you to keep them in your warehouse. So where is the agency here? In any case, the auditors have established that the justification that you have given doesn't sit well with the law. Because you cannot say that You are doing that under agency only when you receive the items and you store them in your warehouse. Let us be serious. I think that some of these issues should be looked at very well. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, but that's why we've taken steps to remedy the situation and to recover fully the taxpayers' investment. Thank you.
Chairman, it's not about remedy. It's about you breaching the law. That's what we are talking about. If everybody will breach the law and remedy it and go free, how are we going to ensure that there's value for money, especially when it comes to procurement issues?
Honorable Apak, you say you have a public interest question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for acknowledging me. The Chairman, earlier on, the NLA boss spoke about.
And this is some of the happenings at the Public Accounts Committee, and these are very concerning developments, to say the least. And let's just get a bit more on the happenings at the Public Accounts Committee and a number of revelations there that generated a lot of conversation as to what can be done to improve on the final output of the Public Accounts Committee's work. Because every year, these state agencies appear before the Public Accounts Committee. A lot of rot is uncovered, corruption, and then also the diversion of public funds into private ventures are all uncovered at the Public Accounts Committee after the Auditor General has done its work. But what happens to these people? Because if it's just about refunding money state funds that have been stolen or diverted for private use, how much of a deterrent is it in the fight against corruption that if public funds are stolen, they can just be refunded when they are discovered at the Public Accounts Committee? These are very, very germane and fundamental questions that are being asked by persons who have been following this quite closely. These are happenings at the Public Accounts Committee. Nelson Roxon Dafia-Mekpo, who's also a member of the Public Accounts Committee, had this to say earlier during the sit-ins.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll be grateful if reference to...
Yes. Chairman, with your permission, if I may read Section 28, Payment of Mineral Royalties. Subsection 1. Mineral royalties shall be assessed, collected, and accounted for by the Ghana Revenue Authority in accordance with law and applicable minerals investment agreements. 2. The mineral royalties assessed as due from a mining company in each month, including any payments due for the late payment of mineral royalties, calculated in accordance with the applicable law or any agreement between the relevant mining company and the Republic, shall be paid by the relevant mining company by direct transfer into the fund. 3. The mining company making the payment under subsection 2 shall immediately notify the Ghana Revenue Authority and the fund in writing of the payment. So clearly, if you look at the next infraction, the auditors have flagged the fact that some leaseholders have refused to pay royalties and they've listed them. It is not based on operations.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Again, with reference to the Act, the assessment of royalties is actually based on something, and that is actually based on the production level. So when the taxman goes in to check whether your royalties that you're supposed to pay, and this is the amount that you're supposed to pay and you've not paid, they assess through your production levels. So if a mine is not producing, so for example, at the time that Anglo Gold Ashanti was not operating for 3-4 years, they were not paying any royalties. So the taxman has to assess those royalties on the back of certain figures, and that's production. And that's what we're referring to, sir. Thank you.
All right. So the assessment portion is based on what quantity you have produced.
Yes, Honorable Chair.
If it's a percentage, then they just multiply by that percentage.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll go to paragraph 800. Roxon.
Chairman, thank you for giving the opportunity to clarify this matter. Now, the case of the auditors is that pursuant to Section 28 of the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act, 2018 Act 978, which provides that mineral royalties shall be assessed, collected, and accounted for by the Ghana Revenue Authority in accordance with the applicable Minerals Investment Agreement. The auditors have determined that some mining companies or some mining leaseholders, that's how they describe them, have failed to pay royalties to you, and they provided a table about 6 companies in all that have refused to make these payments. And the recommendation is very clear: is for management to take steps to recover this money is from the companies listed above.
That's the Public Accounts Committee hearings earlier today, as you've been listening, and also a question they've been asking about the infractions, and then also some of the revelations there. You've had the questions they posed to the National Lottery Authority, and then also, at least sometime last week, we heard of what happened in the case of the Public Accounts Committee asking questions of the National Sports Authority, the Northern Regional Director of the National Sports Authority, due to the failure to deposit over 160,000 cedis in some internally generated funds, amongst many others that we have seen. And we've also just talked about the losses with the Electricity Company of Ghana. As you just heard the Managing Director talking about the fact that the reason why ECG lost some 1.9 billion cedis was as a result of the depreciation of the cedi against the major trading currencies. But there are fundamental concerns about the work of the Public Accounts Committee itself, how the final output of the Public Accounts Committee can be biting, impactful, so that it's not going to be just one of the lamentations that we have seen over the period. Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is joining us on the telephone. Senano, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening to you and your listeners as well.
Every year, at least for as far back as I can remember, we are treated with this lamentation party by the Public Accounts Committee, where the members sit, they uncover some of the rot in this state-owned enterprises or agencies that appear before them after the Auditor General has done its work and presented a report to them. We all watch it on television. We get angry. Their recommendations are made. It doesn't get anywhere. We come back to square one every year. We keep hearing of corruption and diversion of public funds in these public agencies. What has to be done to improve on the impact of the final outcome of the Public Accounts Committee's work?
Well, I think that perhaps we need to review the powers of the committee and the follow-up actions. Currently, apart from giving instructions, asking the police to pick up people, instructing that payment should be made, the next step is that typically there are supposed to be audit, review, implementation committees that are supposed to follow up to check that what the PAC has recommended is executed. But clearly, so far, the arrangement of the Public Accounts Committee, having the hearings, raising the issues, making recommendations, and the audit review implementation committees having to follow up to ensure implementation has not worked for us as a country. It hasn't been as effective as we would all expect it to be. It means, therefore, we need some other arrangement that perhaps gives a certain time frame, and outside that time frame or beyond that time frame, punitive actions kick in. There needs to be a review that tightens that. Otherwise, we will continue having this cycle of the committee has the hearings, a lot of findings of graft are identified, and the next time you come back, it does not seem that much has changed. what needs to happen is much stronger sanctions within a limited time frame in a manner that then begins to set strong precedents for other public officers to take notice of and to therefore advise themselves accordingly.
Well, in other jurisdictions, and I know that you know this, in countries like Uganda and some other places where at their public accounts committee there are police officers who are there, and the moment the personnel or the managing directors of public agencies are not able to answer questions pertaining to how certain funds were used, public funds were used, right there they are arrested. I mean, no matter how you would say that's extreme, it sends a certain signal of extreme deterrence, does it not?
Yes. And so perhaps that's what we need to be learning from. That's what we need to recognize, that the current arrangement where they just come and talk, and sometimes they come and they are defensive or they are giving excuses, and nothing really happens immediately after. It's not what works. Clearly, we need an enforcement regime that allows sanctions to kick in almost immediately, if not within the shortest possible time. And the arrangement you just described, well, look, they are right there. What it means is that when they invite you, you know that if you cannot show justifications and explain, you are headed to the cooler. And that certainly will be a much stronger deterrent and serve the best interests of this country, much more than the situation we have where there's an endless cycle of, follow up and will he pay, and we seem to make things too comfortable for people engaged in graft, and that's why we are not seeing any substantive changes.
And in instances, for instance, that we've seen where people who appear before the committee are not able to account for public funds that they used, they are either asked to refund the money. How is that a deterrent in any way, that you are not able to, you divert the public funds into private use, and the only punishment for you is to refund the money? How does that deter anyone?
Of course that won't, and then you have a very soft terms for the payment. It's like we give you a long leash so that you can take your own good time and come and explain, raise a little, and we are clearly not taking the response towards graft seriously. The jurisdictions where you see minimal levels of corruption reported and they have good standards on the CPI, there's a very robust and swift sanction, robust in terms of quantum, in terms of impact, and it's publicly publicized. It is known so that people begin to think, I don't want to cross this line. I don't want to attempt getting into this, kind of activity. But we seem like make it cozy and comfortable for people. Obviously, if you just pay back, perhaps the balance between a couple of months in jail plus payback will get people to reform. Otherwise, currently, it's certainly not serving the purpose of a deterrent or making it clear that this is risky business. People don't see this as risky because you have a comfort of doing the payback as and how you want it. We need to have some serious reform in terms of the arrangements, the legal, the mandate of the committee, and the legal arrangements in terms of sanctions that can be applied for the different categories of cases that come up.
Sir, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you for having me too, Alfred.
Adam Sano is a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, joining us here on this matter of the Public Accounts Committee and the rot that is uncovered every time they sit to get into the details of the Auditor General's report for each year under review. Now, earlier, if you're just joining us, the ECG, that's Electricity Company of Ghana, has justified a 1.9 billion cedis loss recorded in 2021. They attribute that loss to the depreciation of the cedi against the major trading currency. This is Managing Director of Samuel Dubik Mahama, that's the ECG, Samuel Dubik Mahama, talking earlier today at the Public Accounts Committee.
report revealed that the power distributor generated a profit of 822 million cedis in 2020. In 2021, however, the company recorded a loss of 1.9 billion cedis, raising concerns from the Public Accounts Committee. Managing Director Samuel Dubik Mahama blamed the situation on the cedi depreciation.
The Electricity Company of Ghana mostly buys the electricity it sells in dollars, then sells in cedis, then has to go back and pay in dollars. The forex losses alone for the year is something that we have to look at in terms of our business. Forex losses is what is culminating for over 80% of the losses that you are seeing, Mr. Chair.
He noted that the company is actively working on enhancing its financial performance.
ECG sells electricity.
Yes.
So we'll do our best to sell enough, create the generative market to capture what we can sell, to reduce our commercial losses to the best of our ability, so we see how we can close that gap.
Well, so that's Samuel Jabik Mama. I know he's talking about the ECG and matters arising. If you look at the ECG's books, they posted profits of over 800 million Ghana cedis in 2020. But in 2021, this is the particular year and consideration at the Public Accounts Committee. The Auditor General's report indicates that they made a loss of 1.9 billion. So they have just eroded the profits they made in 2020. In fact, and double the loss of it in 2021. And this is just one of many other cases. There are other cases of infractions and financial malfeasance and the diversion of public funds into private use. Some people who are being paid salaries, unearned salaries, and people who are actually dead. Some are suffering from what we were told as spiritual sicknesses, and they are being paid for over 1 year, their salaries, for no work done. And people are paying them. So these people get away with it. And let's find out from the Public Accounts Committee itself what they think about what's been happening over the years. Dr. Clement Apak is a member of the Public Accounts Committee. He is the Deputy Ranking on the Education Committee of Parliament. He's a member of Parliament for the Busa South constituency. It's good to have you. Dr. Clement Apak, good evening.
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to listeners.
Now, the concern about your work as a Public Accounts Committee is that every year, we get to have this conversation, the rot that is uncovered when all these institutions appear before you, when you, the members of the committee, are asking all the important questions which tend to expose the extent of the rot we are seeing now. You make recommendations. Nothing really happens or deters people from doing same the next year. And then come another year, the same thing is seen, same infractions. So what's going on?
Well, first of all, let me acknowledge the serious infractions that I believe have led to financial loss to the state, as was on display today, as has been the case during other sittings of the Public Accounts Committee. Now, it is important to explain the way the Public Accounts Committee works vis-a-vis its powers. Now, when we hold these sittings, we generate a report because the sittings are at the behest of the Speaker of Parliament. It is the Speaker who receives the audited accounts of every and all institutions that are beneficiaries of state resources as presented in the ensuing years, the previous year's budget. So when we are done with our work, as you are seeing, after all the probing questions that we have raised, the chair of the committee is able to give some recommendations, and collectively we make some recommendations. Now, when we then present our report to the plenary, in other words, to the Speaker, it is then debated and adopted. So when we do that, then the work of the Public Accounts Committee is done. What ought to happen, and this has not been happening, is that Parliament as an institution, and in this case, the Clerk of Parliament, is then responsible for conveying the recommendations made by the Public Accounts Committee and as adopted by the plenary to the Attorney General for consequential action. And indeed, if you monitor keenly, the chair of the committee today made a references to that. And so why Parliament seemed lethargic in writing to the Attorney General and attaching copies of the debated and adopted reports with the recommendations for action by the Attorney General is a matter that we are not taking kindly. So no Ghanaian should blame the Public Accounts Committee. If there is any blame to be apportioned, that blame must squarely rest on the shoulders of the Clerk of Parliament and the Attorney General. So we are doing our work. But if other entities and, if you like, outlets are refusing to play their role, the Public Accounts Committee is constrained because we don't have prosecutorial powers. And so this is the bad truth, and that is the situation. And we are not happy at all. The chair of the committee today mentioned it during the sitting, mentioned the fact that last year, in fact, the year before and the year before, we have made findings, and some of those findings actually include recommendations for prosecution. But he cited the example of the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company, where we found reason to recommend that the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company and those who were in charge of that institution be prosecuted for engaging in practices that clearly had led to the loss of money belonging to the state. So that sadly is the situation. And we ought to call out, the office of the Clerk of Parliament and the office of the Attorney General. Because that is where the problem is as we speak.
And I recall that sometime last week, even during one of your sittings, the Clerk of Parliament was called to question as to why a particular case was not even brought to the attention of the Attorney General. So what accounts for this?
Well, I don't understand. I mean, we ought to be asking the clerk, and I believe that now that these matters have reached a crescendo where Ghanaians are asking, and we are now also explaining where the bottleneck is, we ought to see him acting, because we've done some really good work. I mean, I proudly say that as a member of the Public Accounts Committee for the 7th and 8th Parliament, we have done some really good job.
But you see,
and to think that all the work that we have done seems not to, yield the consequential benefits because the clerk has failed to communicate to the Attorney General, or the clerk may have communicated to the Attorney General, and we are not seeing action. I believe it is just a matter of time. But I wouldn't be surprised if the leadership of the committee, the chair in particular, who has expressed his public disappointment, brings this up at the plenary or directly files a complaint to the Speaker of Parliament to take the needed action to ensure that our hard work is not in vain.
So what has to be done differently? Because you see, for the people who are listening and those who are watching us on Facebook right now, the concern is that to the extent that you have done a good job of asking the questions that leads to the uncovering of this rot, even a further detail beyond what the Auditor General even captures in his report, and your recommendations are not carried through, it makes nonsense of your work, the hard work that you have put through, the hours that you sit, even to look into the reports that the Auditor General presents before you, plus the airtime that is even spent on national television for us all to pay. That makes
to some extent, but not entirely. I say to some extent, but not entirely, because the proceedings at the Public Accounts Committee had the effect of causing entities to rectify some of the infractions. I mean, we have situations where some entities who perhaps had not met the requisite expectations have gone to remedy those situations before appearing. So we have instances where, for example, some employees who may have been paid on earned salaries, refunding those monies. So we know that usually before the end of the sitting, and even before we start sitting, some of these entities come to the Public Accounts Committee with documentation and indeed information to affirm that outstanding monies, or if you like, proceeds from transactions that hitherto were not accounted for are accounted for. And we have instances where persons who have received unearned salaries have paid those unearned salaries. But you are right in the sense that the bigger ticket items, where we speak about millions of Ghana cedis, that should warrant the prosecution of those who are in charge of, state agencies and other institutions and persons who have oversight responsibility over some ministries, departments, and agencies who ought to be held accountable for either deliberately or unknowingly acting in ways that have led to the state losing resources, have not been held accountable. And that is where we also feel aggrieved. And in fact, if you want me to be blunt, we feel betrayed. Because what sense does it make, as you said, for us to spend the hours that we spend to do the work that we do, to compile a report, present it to the plenary, and once we present it to the plenary, the report now becomes the property, or if you like, the report now becomes the report of the Speaker. So ideally, since we are all under the leadership of the Speaker, Parliament as an institution, it is very strange that we are discovering that all this while that we thought action was going to be taken because we believed that the clerk's office would have conveyed the recommendations as adopted by the plenary with the reports to the Attorney General, we are finding out that that is not happening. So it is just a matter of time before I believe that our chair would have to ask the Speaker to find out from the clerk why that has not happened for any consequential action, because that cannot be acceptable. We do our work, and so we expect others to do similar. So as I said earlier, if there is any blame, that blame has to be placed squarely on the shoulders of the office of the Clerk of Parliament and the office of the Attorney General. Because when we do our part, it is then the responsibility of the Clerk of Parliament to convey our findings and recommendations as adopted by the plenary under a cover letter to the Attorney General for subsequent action. And sadly, we are beginning to find out that that has not been happening. And that is most unfortunate.
Indeed. Dr. Clement Apak, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Dr. Clement Apak is the Deputy Ranking on Education Committee of Parliament. He's a member of the Public Accounts Committee, also the Member of Parliament for the Bosa South constituency. Let's say a bit further in Parliament, because tensions flared in Parliament earlier today as a seemingly routine exchange of pleasantries took a dramatic turn between members of Parliament, that's I'm talking about Kennedy Japong and Sylvester Tete. The incident occurred when Sylvester Tete, the MP for Botiano English Manfro, attempted to extend greetings to Kennedy Japong, MP for Asen Central, upon the latter's entrance into the chamber. Now, if you go on our Facebook page right now at 3FM927, I'm going to post a video of what happened. But for the listeners on 3FM, this is exactly how things played out. Take a listen.
A particular compliment to the science and the lady who holds the signs Yes, I'd like to compliment and commend the lady who organizes the signs.
If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM 927 right now, you'll see the video of this near altercation between the two members of parliament, talking about Kennedy Agyapong and Sylvester Tete, beg your pardon, playing right now on 3FM 927 on Facebook. You can go on our 3FM 927 on Facebook. You'll see those two MPs and what exactly happened. But the man who witnessed all of this is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. Komla Kluch is joining me on the telephone for a quick one on this. We understand that the two have smoked the proverbial peace pipe. How did that play out, Komla?
Well, I mean, just shortly after the exchanges, the House continued the business, and which lasted for just about some 30 minutes. Then the House adjourned, and after that, the Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Penyo-Markins called both of them to his office. Of course, we know Kennedy Agyapong has enormous respect for the Deputy Majority Leader, both of them very good friends, and so he had to mediate the peace pact. Both of them smoke the peace pipe, and we only had the opportunity of just seeing the video and the pictures being put out by the office of the Deputy Majority Leader. Of course, we were not there as journalists. As to how it was solved, we didn't know, but we only got to know of it after the process had ended. We didn't even know that how they was able to call both of them. But in that swift move, the Deputy Majority Leader had to intervene, and the process, so to speak, of ensuring that both of them come together had happened. We saw both Sly and Kennedy Agyapong. You know him, I mean, as maverick as he is, if he's in a very good mood, he's in that, you know, smiling and hearty atmosphere. He's able to extend felicitation even to people that he disagrees with, and so that's what we saw in the video that came out shortly thereafter that confrontation. But I mean, what happened in Parliament today? Surprisingly, the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu, who was chairing, did not even make, for want of a better word, he did not look the way of the MPs, and that was quite surprising. A lot of us thought, okay, I mean, it was quite disruptive enough for the Speaker to have intervened. The Speaker himself, Alban Backman, was not in the chair, and so it was quite surprising that we didn't get to see any action of the sort. Probably if the Speaker had been there, he could have called the two MPs to order. But, well, even from the sound that you just played, or the video you played, the sound indicated that there was a statement being made. In fact, it was a contribution by Madame PJ, who was contributing to a statement on girls in ICT. That was what the agenda was for the morning, which was ongoing before the altercation had occurred. And what drew the media's attention was how visibly angry Kennedy Agyapong walked towards his colleague MP, ostensibly, you know, confronting him over what we do not know. But there's rumor that it had to do with some money that he claimed he owed him, to which Sylvester said if he claims that he owes him, that he should take him to court. That angered him, that he had to confront him, but the Deputy Majority Leader had to intervene and whisked away the English manful Member of Parliament.
Good stuff there, Komla. And because we were just seeing the videos of the altercation, and the detailed description that you give to us as to what may have caused this is very important. I do appreciate this. As always, Komla, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Great. That's Komla Kluch, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent there. But if you go on our Facebook page, you'll see the video that Komla makes reference to that captures both Kennedy Japan and Sylvester Tete in the office of Alexander Penyomakin, the Deputy Majority Leader, in a hearty conversation after that near fisticuffs. Take a listen.
It's okay. You know my Godfather. Not me, you guys know that.
Well, Dr. Rashid Rahman, who is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, believes that beyond this, the reconciliation that you've just heard, and they laughing after that near fisticuff, something more needs to be done, because he feels that was very artificial.
We have to appeal to our members of parliament to be as parliamentary and as honorable as possible, as their title directs them to be. Because you see, today, because of the power of the technology and media, whatever happens in every corner of parliament is usually seen by all our citizenry. And I think that, the last thing that we want is to see our members of parliament who make laws and who tell every citizen that if you have any disagreement, the best way to resolve that disagreement to go through the proper kind of channels laid out in a democracy like ours. Certainly, resorting to trying to use your fist or, the power of your body, I believe is not one of those procedures for resolving differences in our republic.
So this is below the belt, in your words, unparliamentary?
Certainly it's not parliamentary, because we don't want to see our members of parliament fighting in the House.
How do you think the new standing orders of parliament would apply here?
Well, I think the standing orders, there has been, some effort to see if the work of the Privileges Committee, for instance, can be improved, even though I am not still convinced, because over and over, incident after incident, it looks like the Privileges Committee has not been able to mete out any serious sanction to any member of parliament.
Dr. Rashid Rahman, the number of you sharing your thoughts on Facebook. Geoffrey Latte says, Uganda. Haruna Mohammed Gidaije says, the people we have giving power to take care of the country's affairs are worse than the colonial masters. I say year in, year out, the same process goes on and nothing is being done. That you're talking about the Public Accounts Committee. And Kapun El Sika says they can both smoke the peace pipe. You say still GM 2025. Sabat Dona says this laughter by the two MPs is within their teeth. You say. Thank you very much. And there's something happening in the northern region, specifically where the minority members of parliament have described the acute shortage that hits the Tamale, specifically the Tamale metropolis and its environs, as a national security threat. Christopher Malcolm is our northern and Savannah regional correspondent. Chris, how bad is the situation there?
Yeah, so Alfred, the issue of water has become a challenging phenomenon in the greater Tamale metropolis over the past 3 months. In fact, some areas actually for over 2 years now, they have not had water running through their taps. So if you go to areas like Kobilimagu, you go to Vitin, some parts of Target and other areas, it is very difficult for these people to access water. And this time, it is very expensive for households to get water because they have to buy from tricycle and tanker operators, which is very, very expensive. You meet people and they buy water from sachet bags and they used to do their household chores before they are able to even send their children to school. So it is very, very serious.
Chris, thank you very much for this update. Christopher Marcos, our Northern and Savannah regional correspondent. There we go for this quick break. We're back with business with Michael Obodo. Stay with us.
experience. Senior Fibia no. Fi we so de e baso. Nanso we de e yesronko kwa. Dan enjoyment every experience ase mfie makoma koduni. We nyina ye the dean of the Lord. Ya tun safro bibia sambra no mbaka ye ho. Ewo ICGC Christ Temple East Station Kra. Eda kwesiara 18 February 2024. Ayimbe no na kopin se. Ye the experience ni nyina bebe wie. Ye de onyankopon ye na seda ene ne tontom be ma no. Na ho ene behwe osoro nhia. Ego bibia obed media CB. Wa brother and enjoyment ene nyimtufo bi to say. Daughters of Glorious Jesus. Mercy Chinwo. Ene afoforo account bebre. Ticket ni 100 Ghana cedis standard. Double 180 Ghana cedis. VIP ni 200 Ghana cedis. And a family of 5 400 Ghana cedis. Benya ticket bi ato ewo Bachona Total. Hacho Cantonment Dansuma Tema Committee 8 and 11 Share Filling Station but star 725 star 8080 hash. Upe mu cheche mu bi afren. Ewo 0546 907473. Awet me na water na media kase nyina si wo na so. Powered by Enterprise Line. Abofo ni bisinie. Just one group of companies. Civil insurance brokers and property electronics. And the afufro pia wakahun. It's the doing of the Lord Ampa. This is the doing of the Lord.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. Coming up this evening, Guta sounds alarm on decline in local manufacturing due to high cost, calling for supportive environment. I am Michael Obodo. I'll bring you details of this and more shortly. Please do stay. Thank you for staying with us. Let's bring you our top story now. Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has raised concerns over the decline of manufacturing in the country. The union has observed that Ghanaian entrepreneurs are running away from production following the high cost of doing business in the manufacturing sector of the economy. Speaking on Business Focus, Public Relations Officer of GUTA, Joseph Paddy, noted that this makes local goods expensive and uncompetitive to imported ones. He therefore called for a supportive environment for the manufacturing sector. We'll hear Paddy speak now.
And not taxation, which we all welcomed it. It's a good idea because we are tired of importing. So, but you have to create an enabling environment for production. But I can assure you, cost of doing business, production, nobody wants to go into production. Why? Because cost of borrowing. You go to borrow at the rate of 30 to 40%, and you can survive in business. You exchange rate to import raw materials, $1 is to 12.6. You can't even break even. You can't be competitive to our neighboring countries. So a product that is produced here for about 12 cedis, you can get it out there for about 6 cedis. You see, so that is why when GUTA goes out to play the complementary and supplementary role, we say the goods that we bring are still even cheaper, the same quantity, the same quality, but are still cheaper than that which is produced here because cost of production is extremely high. So what are you going to do to reduce cost to let us get a cheaper credit for businesses, and lending rates be cheaper? That's what business community are looking for.
So that was Joseph Paddy. He's the Public Relations Officer of GUTA. Away from that, the Cybersecurity Authority is warning that online scammers are targeting laugh-struck individuals ahead of Valentine's Day. Over 3 million CDs was lost to romance and shopping scams last year, and they expect similar activities this time round. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
Valentine's Day is an occasion when people show off their affection for others by sending gifts or items with messages of love. However, malicious actors create fake websites or online shops or impersonate existing businesses on social media, offering heavily discounted packages and items. These scammers mostly send unsolicited emails or messages containing malicious software claiming to be from a romantic partner or a company offering Valentine's Day deals with the aim of stealing personal information. The Cybersecurity Authority is cautioning the general public to be careful of too good to be true deals. Use reputable online marketplace or retailers and validate contact details from search engines to be sure they are genuine. They have also cautioned against sharing personal information with strangers.
So that was a 3 Business News Desk report bringing you updates on the Cybersecurity Authority's warning online scammers are targeting love-struck individuals ahead of Valentine's Day. Now, away from that, Access Holdings PLC has made a decisive move in leadership continuity by appointing Bolaji Agbede as the acting group chief executive officer. This is in a swift response to the unexpected passing of its former group chief executive officer, Dr. Herbert Jiwe. This announcement was made by the board of directors of Access Holding PLC on February 12, 2024, following an earlier statement dated February 11, 2024. Bolaji Agbede, who stands as the senior-most founding executive director in charge of business support within the company, is said to helm the affairs of Access Holdings PLC, subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The transition marks a significant point in the company's history as it navigates through the challenges of sudden leadership change. Well, on that note, that'll be all for the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please visit our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Up next is sports, and Bill is on standby to bring you the updates. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on a 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. We're going to start off from the African Games because early on Tuesday, the Boteman Sports Complex was commissioned with many important guests present to see the facility. The facility is expected to accommodate 7 disciplines for the Games, which starts on the 8th of March 2024 and end on the 23rd of March 2024. President Nana Akufo-Addo was at the commissioning of the facility and believes this multi-purpose facility demonstrates the commitment of the nation towards the progression of sport in the coming years.
Despite loud calls by some pessimists for our nation to withdraw from hosting the tournament, we remained resolute. And today, our country can be proud of the massive sporting infrastructure we're put in place for the Games, which will be a huge legacy for the country.
A huge legacy from the country, according to the President Nana Akufo-Addo. Now, Director General of the National Sports Authority, Prof. Peter Chumesi, has stated that there is a maintenance plan in place to get the Boteman facility in good shape after the African Games take place.
So I think that usually most of the facilities we did have never had the maintenance plan, and therefore there wasn't most of them any budgetary allocation for maintenance. But this particular one, I think the contractor, like all the others that have been putting up, they're also generating the maintenance manual, which also feed into the budgetary preparations every year after year. So once these funds are available, definitely why not? There will always be conscious effort to keep it.
That was Professor Chumesi, the Director General of the National Sports Authority. Tonight, the UEFA Champions League round of 16 is back on your screens. And here are the fixtures for Real Madrid will be facing RB Leipzig, and also Manchester City will be facing FC Copenhagen. Both matches will take place at 8 p.m. tonight. Now, here's what Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola had to say ahead of the game.
Yeah, happy to be there. We did our job in group stage and back to the business competition, and the first game in last 16 away is always good. Maybe you don't have mentally the rhythm for the Champions League, and huge respect for the opponent. We have seen the last weeks what they did it in the group stage.
That was Pep Guardiola, the manager of Manchester City. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Up next is entertainment, and Akofa is standing by.
Thank you for keeping your dial locked on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It's now time for the entertainment news segment, and it's powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Let's begin with the Culinary Olympics. Now, with over 1,200 participants from 55 nations in this year's Culinary Olympics, Ghana's Red, popularly known as Gobe and Kelewele, was part of the over 7,000 menus. Africa's only executive chef of the Fiesta Hotels and Residences, Peter Marlin, received a heroic welcome after winning a bronze medal for Africa. He shared his experience at the Culinary Olympics with 3 Entertainment.
Open to all international culinary talents to showcase their skills, the Culinary Olympics is the oldest, largest, and most diverse culinary arts competition in the world. The 4-day event, which involved more than 1,200 culinary experts from 55 nations, participated in its 26th edition. For the first time in the history of this competition, Executive Chef Peter Marlin presented menus from foods that has been eaten every day in Ghana and West Africa. Team Africa, who won a bronze medal, touched down over the weekend and received a heroic welcome. Chef Peter was excited to have shared the different African flavors to the world.
We had a deconstructed version of Kelewele. We had a refined version of Red. We had contemporary steer. We had all that, but obviously if you're going to look at the photos now, it's not going to look like what it used to though. It's refined, so we have to do a fine dining version of it. So if I could the contemporary steer, we take all the elements out of it and just make a refined version of it.
The next Culinary Olympics takes off in 2028 in Stuttgart, Germany.
And finally, before I go, love is certainly in the air as Val's Day beckons. Talking about love, award-winning musician Kwabena says he has a special package for lovers on February 14. The Aso hitmaker is girding up to serenade lovers at his Love Night concert with Becca. He has been speaking to 3 Entertainment at his final rehearsals ahead of the concert.
This is quite different because it's the first time I'm doing a major collaboration with, a great songstress, a queen of soul, as in the name of Becca. And this time around, I say we're doing it for the first time at the Grand Arena. So it's quite different. It's got a different ambience this time around. You would want to be part of this great experience, to actually experience me on stage, experience Becca on stage, and experience so many other guest artists, which are also A-list artists. So, I mean, it's something you don't want to miss. I mean, a great night of good live band music and a beautiful ambience. Right. Of course, there will be lots of surprises on stage, so that's one reason why you should be there, to be part of the surprise, to be part of the new experience. So I can't wait to see you all on the 14th of February on Valentine's Day.
There's been a lot of effort, a lot of craft, a lot of great talent and great minds that have come together to ensure that this show is phenomenal. I can assure you that you're going to go home thinking, can we just stay here the whole day? We don't even care if it's Wednesday. We're providing a service on Valentine's Day, and we believe everyone should come there. It's going to be amazing performances. Like I said, it's not just about me. I'm not the only one performing. Kwabena is getting on stage, and I am getting on stage. And I assure you, it's going to be fireworks. And people know me, that when I decide to do something, I do it extremely well. And this concert, I'm telling you, is going to be talked about for a very, very, very long time. Inti, what do you want,
And that's how we end the entertainment news here on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep your dial locked on because the 3FM Drive team continues.